Aloha everyone, my name is Dr. BethAnne, and I wanted to take a moment in this video and share a little bit more about myself and my work and why I feel so called to teach others on intuitive living and trusting our heart wisdom and dreaming our world into being in a way that really supports the truth of who we are. So in order to understand why I care so much about those things, you need to know a little bit about my journey. I moved to the island of Kauai in the summer of 2017, and you can see the jungle outside my window. It's a breezy day here on the island. And prior to that, I was living in Anchorage, Alaska. My background is as a clinical psychologist, and I ran a private practice up there for a really long time. And then in the year of 2016, I had something very life-altering happen when I lost my brother Brent that January. We were only a year apart, and it was just us and my parents, no other siblings, and it really plunged me deep into a grief journey and really undertaking grief as a rite of passage. That's how I chose to conceptualize my grief, as seeing it as a rite of passage. And I knew I would come out it on the other side transformed. I just didn't know how I would be transformed, but I knew I would be rearranged by it and that I wasn't going back to the BethAnne that I used to be. And so I gave myself permission to feel what I needed to feel and grieve how as I needed to grieve, and really try and just show up for myself and validate my grief experience. And as I was coming through about 4 or 5 months into it, I deeply began to identify that I didn't feel I was living up to my fullest potential, and I no longer felt like my life was in alignment with the truth of who I was. I had this dream in my heart where I wanted to live more intuitively, more spiritually, and more creatively. And I wanted to move to the island of Kauai in order to do that. And so my husband and I set a goal, and we said, okay, in a year's time, let's make this happen. And it was about a year and a month. And we were over on this island, and I closed my practice. We sold our house. We took this huge leap of faith and came over here, and I didn't know exactly what I would be doing for money. We didn't know where we would be living long term. There was a lot of unknowns. We just said, let's do this thing. And as with all journeys of the heart, how it looks and how it actually goes is never the way that you thought that it would. You know, I really felt like my commitment to the universe of I'm going to leap and I'm going to do this, that the universe would be like, that is awesome, and I will reward you for your courage. And when you get to the island within 3 to 6 months, I'm going to give you the blueprint and help you understand what's next for you. And of course, that's not how it works at all, because we are here to learn through experience. And we're not here to be given a map. We're here to map out our own voice of soul and map out our heart and really allow the voice of our heart and our intuitive self to inform us and help us create the path. And as we say yes to what's inside of us, that is when we outwardly manifest the next step. So nothing has gone the way that I thought it would, but it has been a strange and a beautiful and sometimes a terrifying journey to transplant at midlife and go through this process of reinvention and really surrender into releasing the identity of who I used to be, to give space to this part of me that said, I feel like there's more for me and I want to come out and I want to expand, and I need the space in order to do that. And that is why I feel so called now to turn around and to teach others and support them on their journey, because often we do have something inside of ourselves. We have a dream in our heart. We have something that we want more, and we don't know what it looks like. And, you know, we wanted like the map yesterday, and we have to live it in order to map it out ourselves. So I teach others on how do we listen to our intuition, and how do we trust our intuition, and how does our heart speak to us, and how do we know when it's our heart speaking or when it's just our mind's mental chatter, and you know, how do we know when it's the truth of our soul, and how do we interact with the universe in a way that recognizes the truth of our spirituality and makes space for ourselves as spiritual beings. And I love folding all of that into my books, and I teach e-courses, and I also teach online, and I do live events, and I love giving those tools to others so that they can begin to unlock those things within themselves. I want to share a passage from my book, Things of That Nature, Words for the Mystic Heart. This is called To Learn Self-Trust, and I feel like it encapsulates everything that I'm about in this world and my vision for how this world could be. To learn self-trust. Why is it so difficult to trust our experience of self when that same experience is often the key that holds the answer to our questions? Why is it so difficult to trust our experience of self when our soul feels wrong and our core feels cold and our heart feels stuck? Yet the world says this is the path we should take, so we keep on walking it instead of finding what we need to heed our own voice. Why is it so difficult to trust our experience of self when there is nobody else capable of telling us about that experience except ourself? What if we lived in such a way that we became our own experts? What if we treated our matter of soul as if there were no greater matter? What if we realized to love is to know the divine, and in so doing found the divine within ourselves? How would things look different? Where would we allow ourselves space to grow? And most of all, if we embrace that deep felt sense of innate soul trust, who might we become? That's the question. Who might we become if we allowed ourselves to trust our experience and to become who we really felt called to be in this world? I am interested in finding that out for myself, and I'm interested in living in a world where others are invested in doing the same, because can you imagine what a world that would be? If you want to connect with me further, I've got a kitty cat who's wandering into the frame. This is Shire. She was rubbing up against me the whole time I was reading. But if you want to connect with me further, you can do so on my website, BethAnneKW.com. I have a monthly newsletter called Intuitive You that comes out the first Thursday of every month. And that is where I have intuitive living support, along with any authors updates, any books that are coming out, any online or in-person events. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. BethAnne K.W. and on Facebook at Dr. BethAnne K.W. Thank you so much for being present in this space with me and for watching this video, and I'm wishing you much aloha and love.